Hey everyone, it's Kong again, with another episode of Should You Summon. As always, I'll be presenting high-level overviews using these 4 criteria to help you decide whether this banner is worth your hard-earned vouchers and crystals. How these characters fit into your team, whether they unlock any bonds for other characters, what kind of content they typically get used for, and their future availability. So let's dive right into this rate-up banner featuring the return of Florentia and Betty, running from May 13th to the 26th. Since it's not a Destiny banner, you have a 40% chance of getting each on-banner character, with the remaining unlucky 20% reserved for any other off-banner hero in the regular summoning pool. That's how rate-up banners work. Okay, so let's go ahead and get started with Florentia. She's a healer with an Act Again, which immediately puts her at the top of the usefulness rankings. She collects battle strategy tokens that she can use after her turn to trigger special effects. She can cash in 1 token to heal an ally's soldiers by 70% and increase their soldier attack by 10%. She can cash in 2 tokens to increase an ally's movement, and she can cash in 5 tokens to let an ally act again. She starts the battle with 5 tokens at 6 star, and she gains 2 more if she ends her turn under the influence of a faction buff, and she can hold up to 10 at a time. She's a member of Empire's Honor, buffed by Bernhardt, Leon, Lance, and Rosenseal, Langrisser Reincarnation, buffed by Ares and Hilda, and Strategic Masters, buffed by Ultimuller and Lanford. Obviously, this part is pretty important for Florentia since a big part of her additional abilities from her talent is enabled by having a faction buff. Her 3-cost skill attacks and debuffs enemies along 3 lines, healing and dispelling allies in the same area, and gives her 1 token, or 2 tokens if she hits at least 2 enemies. On top of all that, in late September she's slated to get a unique helm that gives her an additional token at the start of the map, and another token whenever an ally dies. So this means the old sacrificial summon strategy is going to help her as well. For bonds, she unlocks the attack bonds for Tsubame and Hilda. And for her own bonds, she needs Tsubame for her defensive bond and Licorice for her attack bond. For content in PvE, she's on faction for Phoenix and Valkyrie in the Eternal Temple and Sleipnir in Ancient Beckoning. She's a healer with an Act Again skill, so as far as general run-of-the-mill PvE like story, time rift, and all that jazz, what more can I really say? She also has a 1-cost skill, Winning Strategy, that gives her a token every time an enemy unit dies, and that's pretty handy when you're fighting a bunch of fodder enemies. On the PvP side, Empire and Langrisser Reincarnation are both strong meta factions for Apex Arena in Season 7, which gives Florentia reliable access to faction buffs. This alone is enough to make her a top-tier PvP healer. Even if you're not running those factions, if you're just looking for 3 healers to fill out your roster, her 3C and Act Again potential make her one of your best choices. For availability, if you're on a budget, or you don't mind being very patient, we do know that Florentia is coming back on a Destiny banner in October. Betty is with her again, but they're throwing Helena into the mix as well. Okay, so let's move on to Betty. Betty is annoying. That's not me editorializing, that's her actual job. She takes reduced damage from AoE attacks. If someone damages a nearby ally, the attacker takes fixed damage and has a chance of being debuffed. Most of the rest of her kit is made up of passive support skills, which means her main role is reacting to getting hit. Her exclusive helm increases her fixed damage by up to 30%, and her 3-cost skill does damage plus additional fixed damage to enemies in 2 rings. It has a passive component that lets Betty survive an AoE attack that would have killed her, up to 3 times per battle. People aren't usually using AoE to finish off opponents though, so this doesn't really come into play too often. It's more of an insurance policy, I guess. She's a member of Empire's Honor, buffed by Bernhardt, Leon, Lance, and Rosenseal, Legion of Glory, buffed by Ledin, Elwyn, and Grenier, and Dark Reincarnation, buffed by Bozel and Licorice. For bonds, thankfully Betty's not required to unlock any other character's bonds, and for her own bonds she only needs Lance. That's as easy as it gets. For content, she's technically on faction for Leviar, Scylla, and Valkyrie in the Eternal Temple, but she probably won't be much help in those fights. She's also on faction for Hugin and Munin, Fenrir and Sleipnir in Ancient Beckoning. The only place I've seen her get decent use is in AI arena defense teams with Mimir's War Axe. That's when she'll usually be facing off against mindless AoE bots who don't know how to avoid her strengths. Yes, I know there was that one guy who had some good clips using her in Apex against people who relentlessly blasted her with AoEs. That's not going to be a consistent or reliable strategy against most opponents. All three of her factions are strong right now though, so if you have a really solid design philosophy behind your box, you might be able to fit her in and get a couple extra debuffs out of her. For availability, as I mentioned earlier, Betty is coming back on a Destiny banner in October, alongside Florentia again, and Helena. Okay, so here's the quick and dirty summary. We have Florentia, who's a top-tier healer with meta factions for Apex Arena. She has an Act Again ability in her talent, and she unlocks the attack bonds for Tsubame and the important meta tank Hilda. And then we have Betty, who is a pseudo-tank who punishes AoE attacks. She's best used as an AI arena defense nuisance, and her favorite sandwich is corned beef and mustard. Okay, so finally just my usual reminder about upcoming banners. Next week, this banner will overlap with the Destiny banner featuring Shilinka, Tsubame, and Angelina, giving you access to potential bond unlockers for recent heroes Kruger and Florentia. The week after that, this cycle's recurring beginner-friendly banner features Bozel, Liana, and Luna. So if you're still playing catch-up with your roster, that's a good banner for you to focus on. Of course, the next major update, in June, will bring 2 new characters from Langrisser Reincarnation Tensei, Patsir and Toa. They're less broadly useful than some of the other recent additions, so I'll have more to say about them in their own Should You Summon episode when the time comes. Alright, I hope these summaries and this video were helpful. Let me know in the comments if you're planning on summoning for one of these 2 right away, or if you're content to wait for their shared Destiny banner later this year. Personally, I was originally planning on pulling 1 SSR, knowing it would most likely be either helpful Florentia shards or else adding Betty to the collection since I don't have her yet. But now that I know about that Destiny banner, I can just wait. I love a good opportunity to save vouchers. As always, thank you so much for watching, and I'll catch you in the next Should You Summon. Extra special thanks of course to our Langrisser tier channel members Levitt, Derek Gunderson, Kyle Greer-Brown, and William Householder, as well as all of our gold tier members for your generous support.